Hello there, everybody. WhatCulture Wrestling's Adam Cleary here, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for the first time since Las Vegas, and we are here today.
Mr. Cleary.
Oh, thank God! Is this a double shot?
Yeah, exactly what you asked for.
Leave. They say that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but if that was true, I'd be a pretty journalist, wouldn't I? So myself, Phil, and Adam Wilborn, we were all over there for AEW's Double or Nothing, and boy oh boy did we see some stuff. And by that I don't mean Hornswoggle teaching us how to play craps, or Chris Cyborg interrupting one of our videos, or Tamatonga choking Phil out live on the show. That's all on the Banter podcast. You can give that a listen in your own time. I mean the really important stuff. Because the bottom line here is it was a really, really important weekend. The eyes of the entire wrestling world were cast upon AEW, cast upon Las Vegas, and cast upon this Double or Nothing show. If it went well, it could seriously alter the foundations of the current wrestling landscape. And if it went badly, then, well, it was a complete flash in the pan, and it was nice while it lasted. So, which was it? Well, my name is Adam Cleary, and these are 10 things we learned from attending AEW's Double or Nothing weekend. Sort of. Number 10, the step up from All In is already huge. Small one this, admittedly, but the gulfing class between Double or Nothing and the show that effectively spawned it was already absolutely massive. Scale, logistics, production, ambition, absolutely everything about it was light years ahead of All In. Now, yes, getting into bed with legitimate billionaire Tony Khan does afford you these such luxuries, but it's pretty clear that they're starting to put the right people in all the right places backstage. They're accepting the limitations of what they don't know as performers and allowing other people to do those jobs. And if nothing else, this bodes really, really, really well for their forthcoming TV product. Like, I cannot explain to you the differences between doing a weekly TV show and just random indie dates, but they are both numerous and incredibly complicated. The fact that they're letting people run the things that they don't know how to run says that Tuesday Night Dynamite might be pretty good. Number 9, 4-hour shows and 12,000-seat arenas are perfect. Yeah, I don't want to bring up WWE too much in this video because ultimately AEW must live or die on its own terms, but having sat through all 8 hours plus of WrestleMania in an arena so big 80% of the crowd couldn't really see what was going on, I can tell you it's not all that good. You see, at its heart, wrestling is this small thing, isn't it? Like, it might spill out across entire arenas or be displayed across giant screens, but it's about two people in a ring that's like 20 foot across, and they're doing all their best work in the subtlety, in the selling, in the expressions, things like that, and you kind of need to be able to see it. Don't get me wrong, the MGM Garden Arena is not exactly your local bingo hall, but still, even its upper reaches are still fairly close to the actual ring itself. Like, in the nice media area we sat in, which was like one tier up, so like halfway back, it was great. It felt intimate. It felt like you were a part of it, and everyone in that arena will have felt like they were a part of it. As for the timing of the event, we did a load of content in the morning and the early afternoon, then casually went for something to eat, and then stayed for a 4-hour show, then left, did a bit more content, and went and enjoyed the night in Las Vegas. Nobody, absolutely nobody, missed their last train and had to wait 3 hours in the pissing rain for a $200 Uber, and that is an improvement. Number 8, MJF is going to be a star. The big names already signed to AEW have been grabbing the headlines left, right, and center, but beneath them on the card is this entire roster of talent for whom that show was probably one of the biggest ones they've ever worked. MJF is someone whose star has undeniably been on the rise in the last 12 months, but it's predominantly been in both the UK and the US indies, as well as sporadic appearances on Being the Elite. As far as in-ring attention goes, this was his biggest outing since probably All In, and he now looks to be positioned as one of their top heels. His performance in the Casino Royale match, where it looked like he was actually going to win it for a second, as well as his verbal dismantling of both Hangman Page and Bret Hart, whoa there, Seabiscuit, was absolutely inspiring. And if you're one of the few promoters still left who have the ability to book him before he's pretty much snapped up for good, do it. And do it now. Number 7, wasting the Rhodes Brothers feud will go down as one of WWE's biggest mistakes. Admittedly, there are many potential candidates for WWE's biggest creative mistake over the last couple of years. Hello there, Dean Ambrose's heel turn, but just watching the Rhodes Brothers embrace after one of the most brutal matches I have seen in a goddamn cow's age just really hammered home everything that feud should have been. Let's recap on this one for a second. Cody turned into Stardust and got a little bit weird. Then they went on a good tag team run together as brothers, but then he turned on Goldust. He turned on his father. They set up a feud. They had one match at Fastlane, in which Goldust rolled him up, won, then they did a backstage beatdown, and that was it. Fast forward then to Double or Nothing, and the sheer emotional weight of that match will go down in history. Like the frequent callbacks they both made to each other's career, to their own careers, to Dusty, to their tag team run, to their previous gimmicks, to everything was just absolutely overwhelming. Like the sheer volume of blood in that match will divide opinion. I know that it will, but that moment at the end, that gut-wrenching bit where Cody's voice breaks as he tells Dustin he just needs his older brother, will go down in wrestling history. Rightly so. Great. WWE had this feud in the palm of their hand in the run-up to WrestleMania and just... Number 6, events like Starcast are so important to wrestling. Should really go without saying this one, but the bizarre infrequency of events like Starcast does tend to suggest that most wrestling promoters don't really see the value in them. Either that or they're just a complete nightmare. And yes, cards on the table, I have been involved in running these as part of WCPW and Defiant in the past, and they are a total nightmare in fairness. But as they say, nothing in this life worth having comes easy, and while getting dozens and dozens of wrestlers all in the same place at the same time and knowing exactly what it is they need to do is difficult, and getting hundreds if not thousands of wrestling fans all in the same place at the same time knowing exactly what it is they need to do and where they need to go to get that piece of paper that allows them to go and see so-and-so, and then what's the right queue to stand in, and where do I get my photos? Are they on Facebook? It is absolute hell on earth, but it is categorically worth it. Look, at the end of the day, without that connection between fans and wrestlers, there is no pro wrestling, and their partnership with Starcast does suggest that AEW understands this quite well. Like, there was photo opportunities, there was meet and greets, you could just see them walking around and pat them on the back and tell them you really liked them. There was these live talks, there was podcasts, there was Q&As, there was absolutely everything, and it will have made the weekend of so many fans who will be back. Number 5, the elite know what's best for business. Yeah, so, right, AEW finds itself in a bit of a weird position for a wrestling company in that its 4 executive vice presidents are also its 4 biggest stars, which means they simultaneously have to worry about booking an exciting and interesting wrestling product whilst at the same time trying to safeguard their own careers as performers. And those two are not mutually exclusive. And yes, while 3 out of the 4 of them did come away from Double or Nothing having won, there was no doubt whatsoever that the guys they were in the ring with left looking just as big a deal. The Lucha Brothers look every inch the tag team that the Young Bucks do. Chris Jericho got the biggest victory of the weekend with that surprise win over Kenny Omega, and as for Dustin Rhodes, well, his last run in WWE was on the losing end of 6-man tags with like Kurt Hawkins and Mojo Rawley and people like that. The last time he was on telly, he got thrown out of the Greatest Royal Rumble after like 7 or 8 minutes. Now he's one of the biggest talking points in wrestling, so that's a push. Number 4, fans and wrestlers alike are desperate for this to succeed. The hunger for a new, viable, sustainable wrestling product has never been greater than it is now. Now, whether or not that's down to changing tastes in wrestling fandom not being reflected in the mainstream, or simply WWE being a creative cesspit at the minute is, well, I'll let you work that one out for yourself. But crucially, this isn't just about wrestling fans being excited about a shiny new toy. Everybody on the other side of that barrier is absolutely clamoring for this as well. They see the possibilities of AEW. They see the doors that will open from having genuine competition to WWE. And that's because this game has been rigged for far too long to only really benefit the only show in town. And if there is viable competition, whether you're working for them or not, things will change for the better. That's the belief of everybody who was at Double or Nothing, whether they're a fan or a promoter or a wrestler, anybody connected to the industry. They want this to do well. They are all pulling for it. Look, I'll show you.
People want a new product. It's just it seems like the WWE isn't delivering. When I go on social media, that's all I see is unhappy people. Besides the NXT product, of course.
To be at All In and just look out at that crowd and just be like, every single one of those 10,000 people are like the super fans that I've tried to connect with at shows of 200 people. And somehow they've all come together. And so that, in my mind, is the difference between the AEW crowd or the All In crowd and the WWE crowd, is that WWE is just, they're coming to town. People know the word wrestling. They'll buy their kids tickets. And the AEW or the All In crowd were just like people that are so deep into it and so passionate about pro wrestling the way I am and the way I wanted my fans to be. And that's the difference. I think it's just the crazy passion and love, and not the casualness of it.
I think there is an audience for something new. I think we've been sold false alternatives for upwards of 20 years. Every couple of years, something new and innovative comes around, or so we're told, but it always ends up being Diet WWE or WWE Light. I think this is a genuine alternative. I think people just seek that out, so there's excitement. I mean, the past 20 years have been the dark ages, right? I mean, ever since 2001, when everything was purchased, there wasn't anything else, and I think people are just excited for options. And I think that speaks to society in general right now. There's so many independent artists, independent musicians. Like back in the day, it was if you didn't sign to Warner Brother Records, you were ruined. Now, how many guys come up in hip hop and they make their own name and they make their own, and just that spirit of independent-minded spirit and everything, just kind of people. There's no substitute for authenticity. This is authentic.
Number 3, Chris Jericho is still a main event attraction. Despite one of the most accomplished careers in the entire business, Chris Jericho's last run with WWE saw him going 50-50 on house shows with Hideo Itami. Now, nothing really wrong with that, I guess, and he was in his mid-40s, so we all just assumed that was his career starting to wind down. Then, of course, came Kenny. His absolutely out-of-nowhere United States Championship match at New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom was a career highlight for him. It was an out-of-nowhere special attraction match that became the talk of wrestling. He went 35 goddamn minutes in the Tokyo Dome against the best in the entire world and got his first 5-star match. Huh? And yet, despite this, almost nobody would have still predicted that a year later he would be main eventing the most talked about wrestling show in a generation, and least of all, be one of the most important parts of that entire card. But he did, and he was. So there you go. Number 2, Moxley is going to change the game. A few months ago, Dean Ambrose had the lamest gimmick in all of professional wrestling. He came back from his injury all buffed up and we thought, oh, this might be good. Then he turned on Seth Rollins the same night we found out Roman Reigns had been diagnosed with leukemia, and we thought, oh, this might be good. And then the feud was just this slow, pointless, plodding back and forth, which had a slow, pointless, plodding back and forth match, and he was just wearing his surgical mask and saying that everybody smelled and he needed inoculations, and it just killed all the enthusiasm for it. It killed all the heat. It killed all the excitement pretty much straight away, and then they just completely forgot about it. That was it. And Andy feuded with Nia Jax. In the space of one solitary weekend, he has become the biggest talking point in all of professional wrestling. He gate crashed the main event of Double or Nothing. He stuck the dirty deeds on Chris Jericho and then again on Kenny Omega and on a referee. He has been announced for New Japan Pro Wrestling as a championship match for them, a best of the Super Juniors, and just, that's all it took. All it took was just let him do what he wants. And that's what you get. And part of the reason for that is that since WCW folded, nobody has left WWE and immediately taken what looks to be a giant step up. Like, don't get me wrong, in the long run, a lot of them have elevated themselves, but they've taken a step back first and then rebounded into a better part of their career. Nobody has left the company and then launched themselves into the stratosphere until Moxley. Number 1, AEW is the real deal. Double or Nothing was not the first wrestling show to have lofty aspirations. Double or Nothing was not the first wrestling show to sell out a big arena and walk into it on the back of loads and loads of hype. Double or Nothing was not the first wrestling show to sign somebody straight out of WWE and give them a shock debut in the main event. But, something was definitely different about all of this. There was a tangible sense of something special being born. It was Vegas. It was the MGM Grand Arena. There was 12,000 rabid fans there, a super hot crowd, a card stacked from top to bottom, everybody with a point to prove on it. Slick production, nice visuals, f***ing pyro, for God's sake. It all just fell into place blissfully. But still, none of that guarantees you anything. You can have a hot crowd, you can have a stacked card, you can have JR on commentary. For Christ's sake, none of it is worth anything if the stories they're telling in the ring, if the matches themselves fail to connect with that crowd. But every single person, take my word for this, left the MGM Grand talking not about AEW the company, about AEW the product. And that is the biggest leap you have to make. Was Rhodes versus Rhodes one of the greatest matches we've ever seen? Are the Lucha Brothers the greatest tag team in the world right now? Oh my god, is Dean Moxley going to get a match with Kenny Omega? Is it really Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page for the first ever AEW World Championship? These were the questions they were asking, not stuff like, oh, I hope they can pull it off. Oh, I hope they have a nice set. Oh, I wonder what they're going to do with all this. They were asking the questions of a legitimate, bona fide, established wrestling promotion, not a start-up company. That is a big deal. So, there you have it, guys. That's everything I learned while I was in Vegas that I can repeat on a video that goes on the internet. Anyway, let me know what you made of it all in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But in the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching. I have been what's left of Adam Cleary. And I'll see you soon. Goodbye.